Welcome to Monarchist Minute. I'm your host, William Stout, here with Leon J. Krowski. I butchered it again, didn't I?
Kolevsky.
Krolevsky. Krolevsky. I'm gonna get this one of these days, I swear to God.
It's a V, not a W. You keep trying to turn it into a W.
Honestly, I'm trying to skip the V entirely. But, yeah. Anywho, for our Polish listeners, forgive me for my horrible pronunciation of your language. And also back from the dead is one George's P. After a very long hiatus, he's come back to join us tonight. Tonight,
Hello.
we'll be talking about monarchies and moderating power. How monarchs in history and how monarchs today regulate the balance of power in their nations between various stakeholders and power brokers, and how they promote internal stability. But first and foremost, let's see how our hosts have been doing today. Leon, how are you today?
I'm doing alright. I'm I guess recovering at least mentally from beginning the fall term again at university. I was also in a discussion earlier with other members of the organization about the nature and legitimacy of governments.
Sounds very interesting. Which channel was that discussion in? I'm assuming that was in
the ideology committee with Brightsworth, Solitaire, and Bossman earlier.
How did that end up going?
It went good. I think it went very good.
Yes. Things have been slow in my hand on the organization because, well, I volunteered myself to help handle the bureaucratic aspect of getting our banking secured, and, well, the IRS, in its usual fashion, is taking its sweet-ass time. Very frustrating. Because I especially wanted to get this stuff done before I had to go back and restart school, but it didn't pan out.
No,
Anywho.
banking is always a tricky thing.
Yeah, I remember filling out the application to make sure all of our non-for-profit stuff was in order. It said, yeah, we can get back to you in 6 weeks. Up to 6 weeks. Which means...
you have to go through the federal government with this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that explains why it's taking so long.
Yeah, meaning I will hear back from them by the end of this month at the latest. It's, like I said, very, very infuriating because I was hoping to get this stuff sorted out before the semester re-began.
I get you.
Enough about that. Georges, how are you?
I'm chilling. I've been just kind of like starting school again with college and shit, and like, that's about it. Honestly, there's not been that much new with me, and that's just been taking up the brunt of my time.
Yeah, but, that's a good use of your time. You're improving yourself. That's always a good and valid use of your time.
I've learned that I'm enjoying accounting, and I might consider it for a career, all things considered, because like it's one of the few things that's not being taken over by AI.
How far are you through university, George?
No, barely into it. Like,
okay.
Yeah, no, a couple years back, I was going back to college, and that's when my mom passed, so I took a long hiatus.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm almost done through college, so I've already locked in for the better or worse.
You mentioned AI, and honestly, I can relate completely because I can't tell you how infuriating it is to me internally whenever I see or hear my classmates talking about how they use AI to help them do their classwork and stuff. It's just like, am I the only person with the academic integrity to actually do my own homework?
Yeah, I worry for the future. Like, I was kind of witnessing that also in class, even though we've just got started up.
Like, I know I'm technically going to school for robotics and automation, So yeah, I'm already sort of in the same wheelhouse as AI, but at the same time, there's a difference between programming a machine to do a physical task for you and having a machine do an intellectual task for you.
Yeah, it's like it's also a language learning model, so people also using it for like math stuff doesn't make sense.
I mean, I'm also the kind of person who thinks that AI is more a gimmick than an actual. Like, I don't think they're intelligent themselves. I just think it's. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, it's like. Remember when 3D TVs first came out?
Yeah.
I treat AI like that. It's a fun little gimmick or a tool, like it's a novelty item, but people treat it as much bigger than it actually is.
Like how I see them, you know that website that's like technically everything that's ever been written just because it
Yeah.
like lists the alphabet a bunch of times where it comes on every combination. That's just
Yeah.
all an LLM is responding to a prompt.
Right.
It's not smart.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
it's just like an
smart, but it's not.
information processor.
It's smart, but it's not intelligent. Like, it can find information, but it can't think. It can't create anything new.
I don't think it can find new information though. It struggles with that, where like it sometimes just makes up sources and makes stuff up because all it does is put like the most likely word after that. We're just kind of mashing words together. It's like a bunch of 8 balls
Just
strung
look at
together.
look at AI art. I mean, if you look at the details, I mean, it can't comprehend things. Like I remember, maybe it's different now, but I remember a couple months back, it could not comprehend like the individual fingers on a hand.
It
It's
still
getting
struggles
a
with that.
lot. It's getting a lot better, though. Like, it's getting harder to tell, but I know some people are figuring out ways to basically make what they're called poison pictures, where there's stuff in the code that they've imprinted in the code of their pictures, so that if an AI tries to use it as source material, it'll basically kill the AI.
Ooh.
Isn't like AI art, at least from some models, like still stained like a piss yellow from all the Studio Ghibli stuff that
I
people were
wouldn't.
making?
I don't think piss yellow is the way to describe it, but it's like very glossy or like too clean, if that makes any sense.
Like when you see that old paper that's really yellowed, like that old-fashioned parchment paper.
Well, like I know it's like it was trying to mimic the Studio Ghibli style, and a bunch of the AI art became self-referential in some models. So it started getting stained a little bit yellow to give it that old paper look that like Will's talking about. But it kept on increasing through its own incestuousness.
Yes. Yeah, okay, now I know what you're talking about. That's another thing that it does. Oh, that some of it does.
A while back, I read an article where somebody was talking about how they stress test the AIs and the AIs fought back. Like one of the AIs tried to blackmail their creator or one of the people that was experimenting with it with selling out their affair. And I had a couple questions. Like, first of all, if they were stress testing it, that would mean that they had to insert the prompt that they were stress testing it, meaning they had to teach the AI to retaliate if it was threatened. So, and the second thing I have to say is, can we verify that that actually happened? Or is this from the same people who were stress testing the AI?
I got a little
So,
lost.
I've
okay,
never heard of
so,
this before in my life.
Yeah, no, I'm very lost.
I
okay,
understand.
so,
I understand it. I get what you mean. Like, in order for it to have happened, it would have that people would have had to programmed or told it what it was, and therefore it logically fought back. I get that, but like, I'm lost after that part.
So basically, what I'm saying is, did the people who reported that the AI tried to blackmail its creators say that simply to make their AI sound better? Like, do we have another witness to this report besides the people who were stress testing the AI?
Okay. Here's the thing. My assumption is that like it just put together a plausible threat in an attempt to retaliate, and if the owner just was having an affair at the time, it was kind of a lucky guess. It's like a psychic being like, "Oh, do you have someone close to you that departed recently?" or something like that, where they're making just kind of educated guess to throw a threat out there.
Of course, the employee or the person was using their work account or their work computer to do it, so they didn't get caught at home. Which means that the AI would theoretically have access to the information.
I'm not sure.
Wouldn't the AI be Cordian Suntair like from the rest of the computer? It's like if you run a virtual machine for an OS or something that's a separate OS technically, it can't really leave its box. It's not the same as an OS by any means. I think it's actually but most programs, unless given explicit access to other files on the computer or accounts, wouldn't be able to access it.
I don't know how that works, unless, of course, the AI actually did figure out how to basically jailbreak itself into other areas to gain access to information. Which case, yeah, the AI might be thinking then.
Looking at language models, programming skills, I don't think they're able to do that. I don't think they have those skills.
I don't know. I know plenty of people in my class who've at least claimed to have used something like ChatGPT to do their Python homework for them, so.
Well, yeah, but like Python homework's going to be simpler than like jailbreaking yourself out, where it can put together stuff from what it's like scraped from tutorials to know what's the right version, or it still can
Fair.
make mistakes, but
Fair.
like it's not going to be able to jailbreak itself.
Anywho, we went off on a tangent. We should probably get on to the main topic, unless anyone has anything else to say about AIs.
Nah, I got nothing. It's just AI is stupid. I don't think it's smart.
And the only thing stupider than AI are the people who think it's smart.
Grok, can you fact check the borders of
Oh my god.
1400s Europe?
Dude, I learned the greatest thing about Grok. If
What?
you block Grok on Twitter, anyone who pings Grok in your comments, it'll not come up. Grok will not come onto the thread because you blocked it and they won't be able to see it.
That's an interesting find.
Yeah, it works. It's incredible. So that's why on both the MOA Twitter and my personal Twitter, Grok is blocked.
Yeah, but it's always fun to see someone argue with Grok.
It's like, you summoned the AI. Don't get mad at it because it told you you're full of shit.
We're gonna get back on the topic AI. We need to reroute. It's
Okay, so Leon, you were the one who brought up this topic. Do you want to introduce it, or?
I guess I can introduce it. Yeah. But I brought it up as a discussion to actually talk about it because I don't have any firm ideas about it. Firm solutions to it, I should say. So the topic I had brought up is that throughout history, you look and you see this balance. Obviously, monarchs, but in general, governments in general, is that you have to balance short-term and long-term goals, obviously together, but also against like the support for it or for its efficiency or what have you. You can't implement like a long-term good policy if everyone hates it and resists it throughout the whole time, and then obviously, just switch up variations of that. So it's like, how would a monarch be able to get away, balance good policies with popular enough support, even though they might dislike it so much in the short term? If that makes any sense.
That is a good question. And balancing stakeholders is the biggest problem that any leadership in any environment will ever face. And when you pose this question, I started thinking about historical examples, and I think if we want to go back to one of the historical examples, we have, of course, the three estates of France: the nobility, the clergy, and the burghers, the merchants, and how they balance the power through the various stakeholders. But I don't think that necessarily works in today, how they did that, and I'll explain here in a moment why I don't think a historical example for how monarchs can do that can work today. But I think the reason that, and I think this is part of the reason why monarchies and monarchist governments began to decline, is because this delicate balance of power between the nobility, the clergy, and the merchants began to break down. And before we started our recording, Leon, remember how I talked about the democratization of information?
Yes, I do remember. And really quick, it's the French, it's the nobility, the clergy, and the commoners. The merchants do not get their own separate class. But go on. You were talking
Didn't
No,
about.
they
I'm just
dominate it though?
I know, I'm
What?
just calling them the merchants because when we say the commoners, we tend to group them all together, but
Well,
when in
I know.
reality it was just the
I'm not.
wealthiest of the commoners.
I understand. Well, I'm just saying, if you want for accuracy, if you want your specific thing, I mean, and what I would do, I would just switch to the Swedish example, where they have 4 estates, and the fourth one is the merchants separate from the commoners. But I'm sorry, go on.
But anyway, to go on. So, originally, the way the balance of power was kept is because each one of these three estates had their own specific, I guess you could say, niche. Where the nobility was diplomacy and military, a clergy was almost had a monopoly on education and therefore fulfilled most of the administrative tasks. And the merchants, the commoners, controlled so they controlled the economies. Now, what happened is, to be frank, the printing press was invented. We could blame it on gunpowder, we could blame it on the Black Plague or the Renaissance or the Enlightenment, but what happened, in my opinion, truly, was the printing press was invented. Now, what that did was it removed the clergy's ability to monopolize education, which in the long term was a good thing because it increased literacy and allowed us to develop more. But what that did was it broke the balance of power because it made the clergy irrelevant and allowed further secularization, which is where we begin to see the age of absolutism, the ascension of the nobility, they cover more administrative roles, and then they started intruding on the economic rights of the burghers, the merchants, the guild owners, the commoners. But at that same time, we also have gunpowder being introduced, and that starts making the commoners intrude on the nobility's control of the military. And so, that's when we start getting toward the French Revolution with the Third Estate just walking out, because at that point the balance of power had been thrown so out of bounds by first the clergy being sidelined and the nobility taking more power for themselves, and then second by the commoners reacting to the nobility consolidating power and becoming revolutionary and eventually overthrowing the nobility. And I think that that was the grand scheme of things that ultimately resulted in the French Revolution and the fall of monarchies. And the problem is that monarchies weren't able to adequately respond quick enough, or at least the French monarchy wasn't able to adequately respond quick enough to the ascension and rapid consolidation of power in the commoner, because they had invested too much in the nobility. Did I lose you?
I think another thing worth mentioning is by centralizing the nobility, it also centralized where power was. Like I've actually been reading a bit on the Blanquists who were heavily inspired by a faction of the Jacobins. And they always emphasized Paris because Paris was viewed as the heart of the revolution, because all the power there, even like during the nobility, like the age of absolutism, set up that centralization, and then the Jacobins and other like revolutionary bourgeois and peasantry were able just to take the reins of power in the key locations.
Right. But anyway, the reason I'm setting this up is because in the 21st century, the problem with any government or any leadership is that we don't have the same niches among the stakeholders that we did in the medieval period or in the early modern period. There is no administrative clergy, diplomatic and militaristic nobles, and economic merchant class. And that's primarily because of the democratization of information. Everyone can sort of do everything. So rather than having class-based and sort of I want to say almost as a caste-based stakeholders, we have ideological, or I guess in a way you could sort of say niche-based stakeholders, where instead we have the business owners, the intelligentsia, the workers, the politicians. You know what I'm saying. There's more different niche groups of stakeholders now than there's ever been. But the problem is all these different groups of stakeholders cover the same niches. Instead of each sticking to their own specific niche, all these different stakeholders want to control as much as the big picture as possible. Did I lose anyone, or?
I think
I guess what I'm somewhat confused. I shouldn't say confused. I understand your logic, but how should I explain this? Like,
I'm
the
just
best way I
worried that
can.
I'm not putting it
Oh
in the.
god.
I'm just worried that I'm not putting it into clear, understandable words. This wasn't something I wrote down beforehand.
I understand. I follow the logic of what you mean. The change of the balance of power within domestic factions, and that now you could say there's an imbalance between the collective of those groups versus like the government. But the best way I can try and like give an example what I was thinking of before you went in is unsurprisingly it's gonna be Roman history, and you see like the Emperor Maurice, for example, is that he has a pretty successful long-term policy in terms of defending the empire from the various barbarian groups. But at the end, after 20 years, he gets overthrown because the people just were tired of his like tax policy because it was so horrendous for them. They decided, we don't care about the safety of like our borders. We want you gone. So that's what I was thinking when I originally proposed my question. How do you balance between something like that, like defense and like the budget and taxes?
Okay, I think I misunderstood where we were trying to go with this conversation, but sorry for going on my tangent then.
Oh no, it's fine. I mean, you bring up good points. That's where my head was originally. What, George? What about you? What is your take on all of this?
I was just thinking like well, the only thing I was thinking about with yours is like the three estate system. In my mind is just one of those like late feudal era, early modern period like examples of corporatism. Well, early examples of corporatism before the modern nation state came into being. And I think like the issue isn't that like there's these ideological groups or we're not thinking a class as much in a class based system anymore. Is that there's more groups now that you can still represent in a corporatist styled system, but also not making it in balance where it was like with the French three estate system is everyone had one vote per their estate.
Right.
So there was not any way for like one deadlock to be broken, or if the commoners needed something again, they were so without power that they ended up doing like almost what probably was like from what I've read about it at first, kind of like a secession of the plebs, like in the Roman Republic. Where if you're like able to like now what we have is like what the modern bourgeoisie, which is mostly financial capital, kind of a proletariat with like retail workers and so on, and like I don't know. I don't know where I was going with this.
I don't know, but yeah, Leah, I get what you're saying, and that will be our biggest stumbling block as monarchists going into the future is how do we convince the people to put off what they want long enough for the well-being and greater good of the nation. Because unfortunately, one of the problems with democracy is that it breeds entitlement. When you give the people a system where they get to choose who's in power based off of what they want the government to do, they're going to expect the government to give them what they want and give it to them now. I think we're seeing that a lot with the rise of populism.
I think that's a good point. I mean, I was trying to think of it. I mean, yeah, okay. So it's not even it's like the people want it. It's like does like a societal expectation that if you vote leaders into power, they're gonna give you what you want now. They're gonna give it to you immediately, and that there's no bad side effects from it. And it boggles my mind. Like you can see people, whether they voted for Trump or Biden or whoever in the past couple presidential elections I can remember. And it's so bizarre because everyone expects, oh, they've been elected to power, so they're gonna immediately give us what we want, and whether you like the candidate or not, they're gonna give it. You expect what they say they're gonna do, they're gonna do it to you. They're gonna give it to you, and there's like no bad side, at least from them, the government's point of view. It just confuses me.
I don't honestly know if there is really a way to make this work. I've thought about it an awful lot, and I've come to the conclusion that the only action that we can pose to this entitlement is a equal and opposite reaction. And as much as I hate to say it, it's come to me to think of this idea of what I call necessary tyranny. This idea of having a government that's basically within the necessity of its purpose, intentionally apathetic to the desires of the people for the sake of salvaging the country for the greater good. Basically, how many of you saw Nanny McPhee when you were younger? The old movies, Nanny McPhee?
I'm not
I've
familiar.
never personally watched them, but I know what they are.
Okay, so for those who don't know about them, basically, it's this movie about this magical nanny. Think like almost Mary Poppins. But she's like boot camp nanny, where she goes to help out spoiled kids or to help families with spoiled kids, and she uses the magic to basically humble these spoiled kids and straighten them up. So almost sort of like that, where we need a government that will just be unapologetically hardlined and harsh to basically remind the people in the general public that it's not all about what you want. And then maybe, after we get stuff straightened out, we can start, reintroducing public opinion.
I would
Does that make
definitely be careful with that term you've invented. Necessary tyranny is not a good look for us.
I know, I can't think of a better way to call it.
But I get what you mean, though. I think the logic is simple enough to follow. I mean, it's essentially. Oh, who could have guessed? Like, I'm gonna make another Rome reference. It's back to like the Republican dictator pre-Sulla and Caesar, where it's like you come in for what was it, 6 to 12 months? No, 6 months. You like do whatever you need to do to save us, and then after that, you just you piss off, and we go back to making our own decisions.
We need governments to be able to learn again, to be able to tell the public. And we need the public to once again be able to respect the government telling them no. Unfortunately, half the problem comes from the fact that public trust in the government's been so eroded that no one trusts the government enough to tell them no without thinking there's some kind of ulterior motive.
It's the damn wolves, man.
You've been oddly silent, George.
Yeah,
Well,
what's
like,
going on in that head?
one of the things is I don't really lay the expectation of like the government immediately giving what someone desires to them now on democracy alone, but also on post-modernity as a whole. Because you see, like some of the people who would want a tyranny to put everyone in line still expect the government to give them what they want as well now. Like the neo-reactionaries come to mind specifically.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is. I mean, we've seen plenty of these people dealing with them on social media and such, and dealing with them in the organization.
Yeah, like so it's like we have to get through post-modernity, and like the only way to do that is like how I view it is through radical obligation, or at least bringing back radical obligation, where people feel a sense of duty to actually like want the society to continue. Because like people like nowadays are looking forward towards apocalypse because then they can have all their desires and like wants to consume fulfilled.
So you think the solution is we need to rebuild a duty-based society?
Yeah, like I've been reading a lot of the Chinese legalists recently, like, and I think they were cooking up some stuff.
So how do you suggest we do this then?
Well, honestly, first thing that comes to mind is shame. Because like I've actually been writing about this recently as well. Like a lot of people ignore common courtesy to liberate their own like want to consume and want to like live an easier life, where it's not even on as broad as like the government and how they interact with their government. So you got to start this small at home. It's kind of like what Singapore did with a politeness campaign, which
Right,
feels really.
and
Oh, sorry.
no, finish what you were saying.
No, I was just saying it feels really stupid to say this out loud.
Right. But no, but I get what you're saying, and I feel like there are some people who are really starting to point that out and understand that this whole consumption-based selfish mindset of it's all about us and our what we want to do to live with our lives. And I'm starting to see it even among some progressives as well as conservatives. Like I saw someone on my personal Twitter account talking about how they have come to really hate how much like prep medication is used casually rather than for people who actually need it and who are at risk, because people are taking it basically in a similar way that some conservatives complain about women using abortion as basically birth control so they can have consequence free sex. And it's leading to large unintended consequences. In the case of PrEP, it's leading to more drug resistant strains of HIV.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do think we're starting to see a much more growing idea of social duty is important and duty based politics and ideas is important. I try and carry myself in this manner. Like when somebody asks me if I'm a voter, I say, yes, I do vote, but I don't vote because it's my right. I vote because it's my obligation as a citizen of a republic.
Yeah.
But it's difficult. It really is difficult because you got to try and ingrain people with those convictions, but it's hard to ingrain people with those convictions without having anything to basically hold over them. There has to be basically a sword of Damocles, some kind of great threat holding over them to finally get it through their head of, we need to fix this problem. We need to find a problem. There's got to be some kind of personal threat first that reminds them of why morality and duty-based ethics is important.
Yeah.
And in our society, I'm not entirely certain what that would be, because we have such a very individualistic, self-interested society.
I don't really know either. Like that's the big issue of it, because we can't just go back to like pre-postmodernism, where people, even if they try to be repressive, there'll still be some part of them that is like ideated towards consumption. Because it's not just the United States. This is now a worldwide phenomena. Like
Right.
our economy is very representative of it. Even outside of like someone misusing products, like I don't really know how to fix it. I keep on circling the drain of cultural revolution.
It's what we have to move forward. There's no going back. But the question is, what is forward?
Yeah,
And
I'm sorry.
And I don't think even the big intellectuals of our day know what forward is, because forward to them is just their approved form of consumption.
Or if they're honest with themselves, they just don't give an answer. They're just going like, "Yeah, this is society now. Good luck." Like one of my favorite guys, Byung Chul Han, basically does that. He'll say, "Yeah, things are collapsing due to postmodernity."
Of course, it might be just one of those things that we have to ride the storm out, like it or not, and when people see the world fall around them because of riding the storm out, then we can finally get somewhere. As terrible as that sounds.
Like my big concern is the storm is just going to be, for the most part, the end of humanity. Like I've also been re-upping on John P. Calhoun and the behavioral sync, which plays into this, where it's like we're in such a time where like the social fabric has broken down, where it's not on a like physical thing. Like it might be on microplastics, but also it's not like the 80s with lead causing the increase in violence. We just have we have a whole generation, or at least like almost 2 whole generations of people who are still arrested development, where they haven't grown up to fulfill social roles.
The quote unquote rat utopia.
Yeah. Like, and we do live in such an over socialized time. It's like I saw, this feels stupid to reference, but a YouTube short, Tumblr, someone reading it out, where someone was making the observation that they don't see cults anymore, and then someone responded with, "Oh, all the cults are online now." Because the phone gives someone like almost infinite access to you at all times.
Right. And this goes back to the whole conversation I had with Leon before you came in, before we started recording, where I said the problem with the democratization of information is there's no longer any way to have quality control over what information is circulated.
Yeah.
So I feel like we've reached a point of we have access to all the information in the world, but do people really need that access? Do people really need to know everything in the world?
Yeah, and the answer is no, because they're not going to do informed decision making with it anyway. Like most people, like every person out there is guilty of this. They look something up to confirm their own bias at some point.
And that was actually something that a study or a few studies found was they looked into programs that teach people how to combat misinformation, and they found that it actually made misinformation worse because the people would just take those studies and use them to entrench their own biases.
Yeah.
It just gave them better techniques for enforcing confirmation bias.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly. This whole thing is just confirmation bias in the process.
So, as much as I hate to say it as a Protestant, the older I get, the more I start to realize that maybe the Catholic Church had a good idea or had a right idea when they tried to basically restrict who and who couldn't translate the Bible. Just because I feel like they knew something we didn't about just because someone can have access to information doesn't mean everyone should have access.
yeah, like there it was also easier to restrict compared to now, where how things are censored is more that you put a glut of information out there. You can't sort through it all.
Well, I was gonna say that again, I mean, who could have guessed I would have made this reference? But what the Catholic Church back in the 1500s knew, what their mindset they had inherited from the Romans, which was a purely status perspective. It's what's good for like the state or like the general collective, rather than what's good for individuals, like what we have now in today.
Right. Although I would say what we say is what's good for individuals isn't even good for individuals either. And
That's
I feel
also
like
true.
that's a big problem with individualist thought is that mankind is a social creature. Humans are social creatures. Each man is not an island, so we can't think of what's good for the individual because being an individual isn't good for the individual. Being alone and thinking for yourself and only being for yourself isn't good for the individual because human beings were never supposed to be just for ourselves. Any any comment on that or
No, it just like it was hard to think of a comment on that because like it's just right. Like
right? I know, but everyone went quiet for a second, so it's just like, did I say something stupid? Did you guys not
no, no,
understand?
no,
It's
no.
like,
I just was like pondering a response other than I agree. I feel like the true Morgan Freeman like gif.
I know, but when we're just doing things vocally, it's hard to communicate. You
I
know?
Oh,
know, I
sorry,
know.
I said yes, but my mic was turned off,
Oh,
so
but
that's
yeah.
why I didn't answer for a second.
But this is something I bring up, like when and this is part of the reason why when people bring up birth rates, I say this so much. It's like it's not birth rates that's the problem. We're due to have a quote unquote bottleneck generation where the population thins out. The only reason everyone's panicking about the birth rates is because this is happening gradually, where in the past it would have been caused by a war or a plague or some kind of catastrophic loss of life. But the reason I'm bringing this up isn't the derailed topic, but the reason I'm bringing it up is saying instead of worrying about how many kids we're having, we need to worry more about the quality of the kids that will be born and raised and making sure that these kids are going to be the best possible people they can be because they're going to inherit a horrific mess.
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
that sentiment. I'm just thinking really quick. It's like obviously the baby boomers were like a massive generation. I mean that's why they're called that. And since then we've been a decline of birth rates. At least here in the West or the first world. I'm gonna say the first world because it's non-Western countries too. But then it's like I'm thinking, and doesn't that population of the world just keeps getting bigger? Yeah, it's not getting bigger, um, as much, but it's still growing at a reasonable rate. And now I'm thinking,
Gotta
does like
remember,
Malthus have any like does neo Malthusianism? I think that's how you call it.
Yeah.
The
Neo
whole like
Malthusians.
yeah. Now I'm thinking, do they have any validity to the argument? I don't know
No.
why that popped in my head.
Most of the time, Neo Malthusians' arguments are it's like it's a race thing. Like
Oh shit.
yeah, no,
Okay.
it's just a race thing. Where their whole shtick is like, oh, there's too many brown people. It's why they sent like broken IUDs to sub-Saharan Africa that would cause like bodily injury to women.
but we also have to remember the reason the population is so big is that people are living longer too. So it's not
Yeah,
necessarily
that's
that.
an element.
So we're very, very bloated at one end of the spectrum, which, I think that's kind of a problem too, because why people are living longer, they're not staying younger longer. We're basically prolonging. We're not, okay, I'm gonna say it like this, and I hope this makes sense. We're not making life longer, we're just postponing death better.
Yeah.
Where
I
we're
get
not
what you're saying.
improving the quality of people's lives and helping them stay younger, healthier, longer, and slowing age. We're just allowing people who are very, very old to live longer for the sake of keeping them around.
Yeah, I get what you
As,
mean. I get what you mean by that.
as horrible as that sounds, if, say, someone is, well, finally got over 100 years old, but they haven't been able to really live a good life for the past 30 years because of age disability. Is that really a good thing? Or is that just us pushing them on and on forever and ever for the sake of making ourselves feel better? Because we're insecure about death.
Well, like I think that just really quickly gets into the discussions around the right to euthanasia.
Well, I'm not a fan of euthanasia. I'm not saying we should let people just die or let people choose to kill themselves voluntarily. I'm more so just saying is like, do we really? I guess what I'm saying is we need to get better about confronting our own mortality rather than trying to go out of our way to postpone the inevitable. I'm not saying that
No, you're
people
right. You're right.
should be able to choose to die voluntarily. I'm just saying people shouldn't be afraid of death as much as they are.
Like you're right with like postmodernity especially has an obsession with immortality. Like, and you do see kind of a reaction to this in like how some Zoomer men think, where it's like they yearn to be Kaiser mulch, for lack of a better term.
Explain Kaiser Mulch. I've never heard that.
Running into a machine gun on the like Western Front.
Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm sorry.
basically what I'm saying is, and we as Christians, we should embrace this mortality or this mentality because one of the big parts of Christianity is you're not supposed to fear death as a Christian because a faithful Christian knows what waits after death is better than anything in life. So you're not supposed to fear death as a Christian.
Yeah, but then you have like capitalism and materialism, and well, materialism in general, and now it's like you only live for your things.
Right. And, well, I'm not a very materialistic person, so I guess
Well,
that's
I'm
just
saying
right.
generally.
But yeah, what I'm saying is, and at the root of the problem, going back to your original topic, Leon, is that all of these issues with a monarch being able to moderate and the trade-offs between long-term success versus short-term gain rewards for the constituency is that we have a deeper cultural problem with materialism, self-gratification, for lack of a better term, just selfishness and vanity.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I know it's bad for me to mention it so far away, but from what I was gonna ask a very long time ago was that what if we were to like turn like c- close the faucet a bit, like the public dependency on the government. I know that's not a new theory. I know that. I know I'm explaining the last like 50 years of conservatism or whatever. But it's like how can we help stimulate society to be more like more more sustaining and self-sufficient? I mean, think of like old charities, like with churches or whatever. And it's like we have a bunch of charities now, but it's like people really don't. People are still in like terrible situations, whether it's because the stuck on it or the inherently like lazy or disabled or whatever. It's like how can we make sure society is more like self-sustaining like that?
I don't think we can, because that again goes back to the culture thing. And I think the main reason charities aren't more successful is because people don't believe they have that communal duty to the less fortunate.
Well, it doesn't help that most charities are now a grift, where you can set up like a 501c3 in the Pacific Northwest, get a grant for like around 100K, put most of that into operating expenses, where you come out with like 30, 40 grand. And you offload
Right.
some of the
Yeah,
charity
the
to
blatant
another charity.
corruption is another factor.
Like, but I don't think you'll ever get like, even if like it wasn't a cultural issue where all people are self-sustaining, like, because like originally with charities and like relying on Catholic social teaching throughout the Middle Ages, like there was an institution that handled charity that was supranational, like it went beyond certain domains. And now like the state was supposed to take up that role, but what it would be better to do is probably expand reliance on the state compared so the state can push the people to its own ends. Like
Right.
Lord Shang talks about this with having the people be reliant on the state creates a strong enough state and strong enough collective identity essentially to push forward grand projects. And that's how like the
Right. And
Qin were able to unify China.
right. And that's, I know, Leon, you said that this was kind of a bad term, and I agree it's a bad term, but I couldn't think of a better term. But that's kind of what I was thinking with the whole idea of necessary tyranny. This idea of, instead of relaxing the state and strengthening the state and using the state to basically enforce social morality and cohesion and sorry, I got a scratchy throat. There's a lot of dust in the air tonight. But
You're good,
using
man.
the, yeah, it's, allergies have been really bad in my area lately. Lots of pollen. But anyway, what I was saying is using the state and strengthening the state to basically enforce social order. I'm not going to say
Yeah.
it's going to be easy or it's going to be clean, but it, we can't, there's no way to make the state smaller and achieve this, because the problem is that the individuals in society themselves don't want to have these values. They don't want to participate for the greater good. So if we can't trust the individuals to participate for the greater good, then we have to go up the hierarchy, sadly.
I'm grabbing
Okay.
a quote from Lord Shang's book Weakening the People, where he gets into like again because legalism's assumption is that everyone is consumer, like again postmodern society, it makes that base assumption probably a wrong time assumption for the time period, but like it is going up to that higher polity to mobilize the people. And it even gets into the fact like if you have old people that are kind of living on for the sake of virtue because it was a reaction to Confucianism. Sorry if I'm like randomly going on this tangent, but like when it was a reaction to Confucianism and filial piety, where people were just kind of keeping the elderly living on, even if it was a bad life, because of their own insecurity with death. It's also why they opposed like extravagant funeral rites.
I mean, yeah, and I've noticed a lot more people are having simpler funeral rites. Like, my neighbor's wife just died recently, and she just said just cremate her. And my grandma was the same way, just as cheap as possible, just cremate me and go. And I've already said many a times for if and when the day comes that I go to be with the Lord, I just want to be buried and I want a tree planted on top of me so the tree eats me, and then and then everyone can just go to the tree when they want to visit me. But that's
I
what I wanted.
Okay, like I think I think it's also a lot like more of an economic issue nowadays because like I remember my mom's funeral being around like 30 grand, I think.
Yeah, mortuary is a freaking racket now.
Yeah,
A, At my great grandma's funeral, they upgraded her to a wooden casket because it was a small town. We're very loyal to that funeral home because they're like the only funeral home in the town. And she was such a big member of the community. And they said they upgraded her to the wooden casket, and the wooden casket cost more. And I had to sit there for a moment in the middle of the funeral and think to myself, it's like, now why would the stained wooden casket cost more than a steel casket? Or a metal casket? Because you'd think wood is cheaper than metal.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm assuming that wood would also require more labor because the steel or metal casket could just be stamped or molded.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, it still like shocks me that most funerals are like above 5 figures.
I would never want a funeral that expensive.
Well, it's mostly like again buying the casket and stuff like that. Like most wooden caskets, which people prefer, are like I think at minimum like 2,500 at like normally.
No, not me. Throw me in a freezer or throw me in the incinerator, and when it's done, throw me in the ground, put a tree over me. That's all I want.
When I'm dead, you can just throw me in the trash.
From dust I came, to dust I will return. I do not care how you turn me back into dust. Yeah, that's always been such a weird thing in my opinion. Like, they make these like super luxurious caskets. It's like, why? They're dead. They're not gonna feel it.
Yeah, but like, don't you want your dead body to be comfortable and cozy when you're turning into worm food?
Anymore, you can't turn into worm food with the amount of formaldehyde they pump you full of.
Yeah, that is also off-putting on like how much. Like we almost try to mummify ourselves to some degree with the formaldehyde.
Goes back to the whole everyone's so uncomfortable and insecure with death, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
Again, time for me to get on my soapbox as the chaplain of Moa. Good Christians aren't scared of death. Being scared of death is a matter of vanity. If you are a good Christian and you obey the Lord, what you're guaranteed after you die is going to be infinitely better than anything you've experienced in life. So don't be scared. God tells us don't be scared. Christ told us don't be scared. It's going to happen anyway. This has been Existentialism with William Stout.
Memento mori is good as it turns out. Like you have a death drive, don't ignore it. You
It's
are
like
a being unto death.
existential dread is for pussies. Anywho, do we have anything else for the evening, or do you think we can wrap this up?
I think we can wrap this up.
Yeah, no, I think I don't have any more to add.
I think that was a very existential end to the episode.
Was it good, though?
Yeah.
I was waiting to see what Leon would say. I didn't know if Leon would agree or if he thought it was off topic.
No, I was waiting for Joel. I thought you were asking both of us.
Oh, yeah.
I was following you. No, I was following you.
Well, you came up with the idea for the topic of the episode today, so I was looking for your approval, really, Leon.
Oh well, I figured at the end there we had traveled from one to another.
Right.
That was no offense, not that I think it's a bad thing, but we went from how can we satisfy people's short-term desires in relationship to the state to we should just all accept death happily, although peacefully and real happily or whatever, or else you're like a selfish paranoid a-hole.
Right, because we discussed and we realized the reason that we can't have a society and a government where we can satisfy people's short-term wants by preserving the long-term good and success of the state is because people are too selfish. And that just went on to problems with why people are selfish and throughout a lot of law, memento mori.
Fair enough.
Anywho, please bow your head and join us in prayer. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Thank you all for joining us on this very thought-provoking episode of Monarchist Minute. We hope to see you again next time, same day of the week. If you're listening to us on Discord, that would be Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. If you're listening to this on YouTube, it comes out every Monday at 12 p.m., just in time for lunchtime. If you're listening to this on Podbean, Spotify, Pandora, etc., you know what service you use to listen to podcasts. It will come out. Actually, I don't know what time it does come out on any of those platforms. I just uploaded and it puts it out eventually. But anywho, like, comment, subscribe, follow, hit the notification bell, whatever it is you need to get the notifications that let you know when these episodes drop. Follow us on social media, shoot us an email, join us on Discord, DM us, get a hold of us, ask how you can help out, get involved. We're always looking for new members, we're always looking for more help. Until then, may God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you, and good night.